Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Monday Night Baseball. No, I'm not Howard Cosell, thank God, but I am Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Glad to have you with us tonight. Before I get to my co-host here, I do want to send a special shout out to my father-in-law, late father-in-law, Fred Ebling, who died a year ago on this day. Dad, we really miss you very much, Candy and I and the rest of the family, and hope you're enjoying some laughs when you look at this show here with your son-in-law, and your daughter will be making an appearance later on. And next, I want to go out there and wish my grandma Sophie Morganroth Jacobs, okay, a happy 104th birthday in heaven. So I know you're gaining a lot more family members, but we try to keep them out as many as we can. But Grandma, I miss you very much. Life has never been the same without you, but happy 104. With that said, let me go ahead and introduce the crew. I'll give you an idea what we're going to talk about in a moment. We have George Eichhorn. Welcome back, George.
Hey, Scott. Hi, JT. Good to be back on with you guys talking some baseball.
And great segue over to here's JT.
Hey, guys. Can't believe we're getting closer and closer. I think the Dodgers are getting real close to this week. I believe they go to spring training. They're the first team that goes to spring training. It's coming fast, and let's talk baseball. I love it.
Yeah, our network must be one of the few out there that's talking baseball because everybody else is talking about the Super Bowl. But you know what? Too bad. Baseball is what it is, at least tonight. And we had a great opportunity to talk with Andy Barquette, who is a unbelievable hitting guy who's traveled the scope of Major League Baseball. I hope to have him on this show, but Andy was a great guest on the Sports Exchange on Wednesday night. I just want to let everybody know that 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Want to advertise cost efficiently? Give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes, and she'll also be making an appearance on in a little bit. I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone that you can see on the right part of your screen. Tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders, old school media versus new school media. Available on Kindle and Amazon. And also I'm working with a company called NGBN TV, which is in the sneak peek part of their launching. And they do appear on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, mobile devices. And it will be in 85% of the homes in the United States and Canada and 4.1 billion mobile devices. Want to keep everybody intact. Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about Bobby Witt Jr.'s contract, Theo Epstein returning to the Boston Red Sox, and yes, the Baltimore Orioles make the show. With that said, let's bring on everybody again here. And you know what? It's funny. You talk to JT. So I want to talk about Bobby Witt Jr. I said, really? Who's producing the show, me or you? You know, what is it? Well, just an idea. Well, guess what? It's our lead story. So with that said, okay, we'll turn it over to Mr. JT and give me your thoughts about Bobby Witt Jr. staying in Kansas City, where he'll eat a lot of barbecue. And I know the Royals will be playing in a new stadium before that contract is up.
It's amazing. Guys are starting to do this now. Milwaukee signed their young guy. Detroit just signed the guy that doesn't even have an at-bat in the major leagues to a big contract, Colt Keith. But this one really took me by surprise. The money involved, $288.78 million guaranteed. It could actually grow to $377 million, which is the 15th biggest contract I think I heard in MLB history. So that's saying something from the Kansas City Royals, and that puts pressure on. I'm in a small market in Pittsburgh, and like the Pirates, the A's. I mean, little small market organizations. They got to step up now. They can't use it as an excuse. The Royals went out and did it, and baseball's starting to get smart now. These young guys are starting to get signed up early. I know the Pirates are talking about O'Neal Cruz. There's a couple other organizations trying to get their young guys all signed up. Detroit has a couple other guys they're trying to sign up already. And like I said, they signed Colt Keith to big money He hasn't even stepped in the batter's box in the majors. So I think it's a way that small market teams can compete. Is they got to grab guys early and sign them and hope for the best, because that's the only way you can compete with the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Cubs, Red Sox, whatever big organizations, the Angels that want to put the big money up. But I like it for the Royals. I think the fans should be excited. As you mentioned with the new stadium, I think the Royals are looking at what's a better way to grow into a new stadium with having a superstar like Bobby Witt Jr. He's a superstar for KC, and they're showing him it.
I'll turn over to George.
Yeah, Scott, and this was really an interesting signing, but I think it's well worth it as well. I agree, JT. We got a kid here that hit 20 homers, 80 RBIs in 2022, and then he followed that up with a 30 homer and 96 RBI season for the Royals. My only problem is again, but this is a universal problem. Too many batters strike out too much. He had 135 Ks 2 years ago and 121 last season. He did a little bit better on that front. But yeah, I tell you what, his dad was a good baseball player, and he's certainly definitely a chip off the old block. Bobby Witt Jr. And you're right. I mean, it is a situation where smaller markets are trying to make sure they secure their top talent. You mentioned, JT, about Colt Keith. The Tigers gave him a bundle of money last week to stay, to extend out. He was already on the team, but you're right. He's never taken an at bat, but he's the number 2 prospect for the Tigers. The other situation is one in which you cannot let too many of these kids go and get away from being on that team for many years long term. Because what's happening is we see how easy it is, easy from my standpoint, for the LA Dodgers to get that checkbook out, write that check, or the New York Yankees, or yes, sometimes other teams as well, Chicago Cubs, or big city teams, the Yankees, the Mets, Philadelphia. But what I'm saying is that these teams, like you said, JT, are getting smarter now. They want to make sure that their prized possessions, let's call them, their top-rated prospects, in the case of Colt Keith, are signed up for a few years. So I wasn't totally caught off guard. Yes, I did not expect it to be that long and that high of a contract, but that's what they're getting nowadays when you got those kind of credentials. And like I said, Witt's got back-to-back 2 good years in home runs and RBIs, power stats.
And
I also want to welcome Mr. Big Papa to the show. I haven't seen him before, but I hope we go ahead and see him again. Thanks, Big Papa. We appreciate you very much for coming on, and hopefully you'll be a fan of the show. And if you can, kindly subscribe to the South Florida YouTube channel. You never know. Maybe one of these days when we get to know you, we can bring you on. So thanks a lot for making us a part of your night, Mr. Big Papa. All right, who wants to chime in?
I'm all set, Scott. Go ahead, JT.
I wanted to say, and you're right. I'm a big believer the strikeouts are getting out of hand, but 121, 135 nowadays is like the 90, 95 back in the 80s and 90s, which is sad. But I get what you're saying. And Bobby Witt's he's a guy that's going to grow into a 280, 290 hitter that hits 30 to 35 homers, plays a good shortstop. And let's not forget either, if the Royals do get stuck down the road, that's a contract that they could easily offload to the Yankees or Dodgers still. I mean, that's the other part about it. That's the one thing I always tell people. Like these small markets can take a chance. If the guy's really that good, they're not going to be stuck with them for the 13, 11 years, 12 years. Or they could still move him if they had to. But it's nice to see, and it would be great to see him play that contract out. And it'd be nice to see baseball fix its own problem, which is just, like you said, the Dodgers writing checks whenever they want.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll add to the whole thing is, number one, if you're an organization, you see a player as a long-term kind of guy where you hope he'll start and finish his career, like we saw with last week when we talked about Joe Mauer and Todd Helton, and you think he's that good, lock him up for a long time. It doesn't matter. You ought to know you had a good sample size in the minor leagues. If you feel this kid is a stud, lock him up. That way you don't get into a bidding war. At some point or another, these salaries are going to have to level up. At some point or another, you can only pay. hand out so much until, there's not a whole lot of money left. You can't depend on TV deals to bail you out because you're spending billions of dollars on payroll. You can't do it. So once again, I'll say it one more time before we go to the next topic. If you can go out there and get him early, you think he's that good, keep him. All right, next topic of the night. And I know this is one that a lot of Red Sox fans are feeling really good about. Theo Epstein's returning to the Boston Red Sox as a part owner and senior advisor. All right, George Eichhorn, how good is that for the fans in New England who suffered because of the New England Patriots problems? But we've always said that Boston Red Sox are competitive. It's not what you do on the field, though, in terms of certain types of players, but you got to have strong management. And Theo Epstein is the guy that went out there and took the Chicago Cubs and the Red Sox and got them out of long droughts, and they ended up drinking a lot of championship champagne. Doing cartwheels in Boston, George. What do you think?
I think it's a very good move, Scott. He was one of the favorites of mine before Scott Harris was handed the job at the Detroit Tigers presidency. Theo Epstein was one of the names obviously mentioned. He's usually mentioned anyways whenever somebody's looking for that top baseball executive. I mean, I lived through the days of Dave Dombrowski here in Detroit, and Dave has a great track record, but Dave, nothing against him, but he's not a spring chicken anymore. Theo Epstein, much younger, brings maybe different ideas and perspectives. He's proven his mettle in baseball with Boston and Chicago. In Major League Baseball, he's contributed with his position there, where he worked for the commissioner's office for a while. So I really think Theo Epstein still is very, very deserving of this kind of contract, this kind of offer. And I know he has a heart that really bleeds Red Sox red and tradition like it does at Fenway Park. So to me, that's a no-brainer. I'm really happy for the Red Sox nation. I think it's going to be a good fit. The question is how is all the power going to be distributed? Is Theo going to get the last say on a potential trade? I mean, we'll have to see how all that works out with the Red Sox management. But yeah, I mean, the guy is exceptional. He's a good mind, a baseball brilliant mind, and I'm all in favor of this one, guys.
All right, JT.
This actually broke in Pittsburgh. If you know, the Fenway Sports Group owns the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Boston Red Sox. They own a lot of stuff. They own a soccer team, Liverpool. He's a senior advisor to the company as well as part owner. So there's even rumors here in Pittsburgh that he's going to help with the rebuild of the Penguins whenever the Penguins have to blow this thing up with Crosby and that. And he's just a sports-minded guy that just knows what he's doing. He's a younger guy still. He's proven that he can take he brought the Red Sox back from the dead and did the same thing with Chicago, which was one of the most phenomenal things any front office guy has done, taking two of the most storied organizations and won both places. But it broke here in Pittsburgh right away because of the Penguin connection. And I would not be shocked to see the Fenway Sports Group just use him as much as they can while they can. And it's a great deal for Epstein, and hopefully it works out for everybody involved.
I'm not one to talk about future Hall of Famers, but I will this time. Here's a guy that will get in the Hall of Fame because he's been a pioneer and a franchise builder. Geez, oh, Pete, if you can get the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox to break historic droughts, you're going in Cooperstown, the place that I love so dearly anyways. All right, well, it's time to bring Candy Ebling on the broadcast. My goodness, Candy. How are you tonight, Candy?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you, Scott?
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to be starting bringing in certain people throughout the course of the show. So if you see the three of us plus other people, I've decided to incorporate new wrinkles to the broadcast to make it better. And there's no better person than to get this part going than Candy Ebling. So we're going to, what do you think, Candy? You ready for this?
Bring it on.
All right. Well, we will over in the crab city called Baltimore, where there's a place called the Inner Harbor. I've been there a couple of times. Great town. But the Baltimore Orioles acquired 2021 National League Cy Young winner Corbinburnes from the Milwaukee Brewers for infielder Joeyortiz, left-handed pitcher dlhall, and the number 34 pick in the 2024 draft. Burnes is set to earn $15.6 million before hitting free agency. All right, well, you know what? We're going to start with Candy. What were your thoughts when this deal was made?
I'm going to be honest with you guys.
I'd rather you lie, but okay.
As a Brewer fan, not happy. But the reality is the Milwaukee Brewers playing a small market team. They're a small market. They are actually one of the game's smallest media markets. The problem is Corbinburnes was going to be a free agent after this year. So can the Brewers, with a small market, media market revenue like they have, can they compete with the big guys? No, they can't. They can't offer the big contracts. If you offer one to buy a contract, you won't have the rest of the team behind you. So, when is the best time to get the most value for a player such as Corbinburnes? Do you do it now, or do you wait for the deadline mid-season? Well, the Brewers sat there and figured, you know what? The best time is now, because what if he gets injured? His trade value goes down. If they would have kept him as a free agent, they would get one draft pick. If you trade him now, you keep the draft pick, and you got two ready now major league players. Granted, they're young, but that's how a small market team has to do it. They build young, and they have young players on their team, and they make smart decisions. As one general manager of a small market MLB team said, as a small market team, we understand the challenges we face in terms of financial disparities. We have to be creative and strategic in how we build our roster and develop our players. It's a constant balancing act between maximizing our limited resources and putting a competitive team on the field. They have to navigate limited financial resources. They have a hard time retaining key players because they can't pay the same amount. And acquiring top talent, it doesn't happen. Let's face it. I remember back a couple of years, what did we do? We had CC Sabathia for a rental.
Right.
And that literally was just a rental. We got him for the last little bit of his contract because that's all we could afford. We couldn't keep him. We couldn't compete with the Yankees, and that's why he went to the Yankees afterwards. That's why you will not see a small market team with continued success, because they can't keep up with it. Yes, they might pop up here and can make the playoffs, but a long, deep run every year does not happen. Until baseball really changes how they do things, the small market teams are going to be like that. Do they get lucky at times? You bet. Here's where I'm going to say they have more challenges for their GM than any of the big leagues, because they've got to make sure they're making the right moves to be competitive. Whereas a GM from a larger market, yeah, they've got to hit and they've got to produce, but they're more likely to produce because they have the bigger payrolls, they have the bigger revenue, they have more of its supporting cast. The Brewers are a small market team. They've got to hit on their draft picks. They've got to grow and develop their farm system. And yes, they're rookies. They've got to perform. So that's part of why I think you saw Craig Counsell leave, is because he wanted a chance to develop a team that they could afford. A team that wasn't a small market, because let's face it, a job as a manager in a small market team, you don't have the big guns, you don't have all that money behind you. You've really got to work and develop your players. And to compete with the big teams, you've got a tough job.
Okay. Well, if anybody can relate to this one more than JT, then I don't know who can. Go ahead, pick it up from here. JT, you deal with the Pirates all the time.
I feel Candy's pain because we go through it here in Pittsburgh as well. And you're right. You can't mess up on a guy and decide, we're going to write a check for the next guy like other teams can. We can't do that. This was a trade that actually helps out both teams greatly. Baltimore won 101 games last year. They're going to get 1 year out of Corbinburnes. They're probably not going to afford his contract either, especially if he puts up another 15 wins. His ERA since 2020 is like 2.9. He's an amazing pitcher. We face him all the time in our division, the Pirates and Brewers. It's a great trade for the Orioles for that. They get 1 year to try to compete again and win the AL East like they did last year. It's great for the Brewers because Willie Adames is a free agent after next year. He's our shortstop, and Joeyortiz is a good young hitter that can he'll be the hair replacement. I wouldn't be shocked if Adames gets moved here sooner than later as well for Ortiz. And dlhall is a good young left-handed pitcher. He's had some issues with control problems, but the Brewers really are struggling with their rotation. They have Freddie Peralta, I believe Wade Miley, and then they're a bunch of like Joe Rosses and a bunch of veteran vagabond kind of guys. So he has a chance to fill right into that, and it's a great move for Milwaukee because, like you said, they're not going to afford him anyway. So they're going to get a good young lefty, and they're going to get a future shortstop for the future. And Joeyortiz and dlhall are both top 100 prospects, so it's not a bad deal at all for Milwaukee, who probably wasn't looking at winning the division even with Corbinburnes this year. And I know the Pirates are not going to win this division either. It's going to be the normal teams at the top. But I think the Brewers can turn around and bounce right back. I mean, especially with, if I say his name wrong, Jackson Trio. They got some young guys coming in. The Brewers are building a nice foundation for the future. And if I couldn't give a grade, I would say it's a total A+ for each team. If Baltimore doesn't win the division this year, then they lose the trade because that's all they're using this trade for. And then let's not sleep on that 34th pick either to draft. That could turn into another prospect. So it's a good move for both teams.
I was thinking of the same thing. I'll mention it afterwards, but I'm glad you brought it up. All right, George. I know that the Illich family, they don't view themselves as a small market, nothing like what between Milwaukee and Pittsburgh, but we'll just keep it on point here and talk about the trade for both teams, George. Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I give it an A++ for Baltimore because obviously this puts them even in a better position to try to win the World Series this coming season. The problem is we saw 3 100+ win teams, of course, Baltimore, the Dodgers, and the Braves go down. So there's no guarantees in this game. We know that. But I mean, if you had an opportunity to add a Cy Young Award winner to your pitching staff, I completely understand why Baltimore pulled the trigger on this trade. And Candy, you are getting a couple of good prospects in Milwaukee, Joeyortiz and dlhall. Ortiz hit 321 in AAA ball last year. And I mean, it's very difficult. It's a situation where, yeah, a lot of times we see this happen. And, and Detroit's another one. And Scott, you mentioned about the Illiches. Well, it's a total different situation. But not totally different in the fact that they're not spending a lot of money now that they got the Cabrera contract on in Detroit. But let's stay on point and talk about this trade. It's like a sad state of baseball that the teams mid-market or small have to really, like you said, struggle. They got to really manage. Like you said, the general manager's got to, and president of the team's got to manage it so much more effectively because you don't want to make any mistakes along the way because your sliver of opportunity is a lot smaller than a Boston Red Sox, a Yankees, a Dodgers, a Texas Rangers organization. That being said, I give it A++ for Baltimore, but I give an A for the Brewers too, because both these kids have good upside to them. And hopefully they'll pan out and be some future stars for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay. The only thing I'm going to add to this whole thing is this. Okay. Number one, as we go into our next segment, this is all about player development. Not how much money you have, it's how you develop your players and how wisely you spend it. Remember, it wasn't that long ago, 2014, that the Kansas City Royals won it all. Or no, they lost. They actually lost to the Giants, but then they won it, I believe, the following year. And I believe they beat the Mets. So small market teams can win the World Series. And the Tampa Bay Rays have been a big example that you can go ahead and win. And they're playing in that stadium that you call whatever, okay, Tropicana Field. And they're still doing it with miracles with two managers. You have Kevin Cash and Joe Madden figured out how to at least win there. Now they haven't won it all, but they won. Now, I'm going to tie it into our next topic. The Orioles were purchased for $1.7 billion by a group of equity partners, including Baltimore businessman David Rubenstein and Mike Arougheti, and also their legend Cal Ripken Jr. has a piece of it as a partner as well. So knowing that you've just seen this transaction take place, you're going to see a much different way that they do business in the Baltimore part of the Beltway. So, yes, everybody's gone out there and said they're in win now. You better believe they are. They are in win now. This move here, by making this sale, only ties into what they were doing. And the Orioles have been an upstart franchise. Now, obviously, they see this opportunity that we can take it all the way. So, with that said, I've said my part on both topics. I'm going to turn it over to JT.
One thing I want to add too about that trade with the Orioles is we forgot to mention they have Jackson Holiday, Gunnar Henderson. They got another kid coming up named Jordan Westberg. That's going to play second. They're so loaded that they actually dealt from an area of strength trading Joeyortiz. He pretty much was not part of their plan. So Baltimore's done a great job of developing. Their drafts the last 5-6 years have been phenomenal. If you look at the prospect, their top 10 prospects are the best in baseball or close to it. Colton Cowles or the outfielder. They have talent coming from everywhere. So that's a team that never really spent a ton of money that drafted well enough now that maybe I was wrong. Maybe they're a team that they win 100 games again. Burnes does well, and they can re-sign Burnes with the new ownership. Maybe it's a different game. And the AL East is just, it's a crazy division. When you got teams like Toronto who just got Justin Turner. You got Boston who you're never sure about them right now. They seem like they're not really buying the guys they used to, but they're right away. Any moment they can do it. Tampa Bay, like you already mentioned, are magicians. They find a way to win 90 games with whatever they're dealt with. And then Baltimore and the Yankees, that's a great division. And I think Baltimore's an up and coming team. I mean, they're a team that could be I hate to say the word, and I'm not going to say the word, but I'm talking about the D word. They have the young enough guys that they could win 100 games here for the next 3-4 years. They get the pitching because their hitting is going to be phenomenal. Because Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holiday, they're the real deal. They're going to be set for a long time in Baltimore.
I think the only thing that stopped Baltimore from advancing deep was I think their bullpen started to get injured a little bit. And they lost their closer, or who knows what would have happened a year ago. Hey, by the way, Michael Arango is in the chat room. Let's put his comments up. And Michael, just to let you know right now, if you need me to do your podcast, I'll be available on Friday. So reach out to me privately, and I'll be more than happy to. I never know my schedule till Monday or Tuesday, and I know it. So reach out to me on Friday. I'll be able to do some stuff with the Lions, whatever. All right. So George gets the opportunity of reading this. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, Michael says no one is talking about this, but one huge matchup I see deciding this game is the matchup between Chris Jones and Trent Williams. Of course, he means the Super Bowl. Both line up on the left side, and Trent has waited for this all his life. And Jones had a good year, but definitely not his best, while Trent has been the best left tackle all year, according to PFF. The Chiefs led the league in drop passes, and while I understand they've been playing better as of late, those numbers don't lie under pressure. I think the Chiefs need Pacheco.
All right, well, I don't mind cross-sport references, considering it's Super Bowl, and I've known Michael a long time. So, Mike, reach out to me. More than happy to help you by the end of the week. We'll stay on point with our baseball, but it's okay to get comments like this because it's certainly a popular thing. All right, who did I leave off with?
Candy or me is next.
Yeah, I think
We know JT went. All right, go ahead, George.
Okay, the Orioles. Yeah, again, I can't say enough about how they built this system, how they built, like you said, JT, the farm system and developed their players. You talk about a best time to sell your team, you're looking at it right now. You really are. And I mean, that team has struggled for years and years. Come on. We know how much they used to be. They were the power of the AL East. My Detroit Tigers were in that division with them for a long time before they created that Central Division and moved Detroit out of that. And a lot of people still think the Tigers should be in it because of traditions with Baltimore, Boston, New York, etc. But you got to remember, the Orioles only won that division by 2 games, folks. 2 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays, were only 2 games behind, despite that wonderful season that the Orioles put together. And of course, the aforementioned failure in the playoffs, along with the Dodgers and the Braves. So Baltimore is really a strength of the AL East right now. They've got a good farm system. They've got a good everyday lineup. They got kids that are hungry and want to play, especially many younger ones that they've groomed through the system. That's what you want to do. And then you top it off with a situation where you pick up a former Cy Young award-winning pitcher. But yeah, the Orioles, I mean, you talk about a good time to try to sell that team and obviously make a lot of money. I mean, they did that and then some. So it's a great franchise. I know Camden Yards probably needs a little bit of a refresh, but that's a great ballpark, and they have great fans in Baltimore. They've always had great fans in Baltimore. And don't forget that was the designated presidential opener, if you will, when there was no team in Washington. The president was always at the Baltimore ballpark. But anyways, that being said, yeah, I think the Orioles are on the high side of things right now. But you pay for that. You pay a high price. You want to buy a team like that, a franchise like that right now.
I'm just glad Cal Ripken Jr. is involved. All right, Candy's got the last word, then we'll close out the show.
So Baltimore is on the rise. Let's face it, we're all talking about how they're good, and we think they were good last year. We think they're going to be good this year. So my question is did they really sell at the right time, or do they think they'll be worth more at the end of this year to sell it? So I think it's kind of interesting that they did really well. Yes, it's a good franchise. They've been building themselves up through their farm systems. But my question was the value more now, or would the value be higher later this year? So was it the right time to sell or not?
Well,
that's it.
Evidently in their minds, they think it was, and they got $1.72 billion and Cal Ripken Jr. And you know what? To me, I think the people in Baltimore has been dealing with the Angelos family a long time. They've seen a lot of bad baseball. The son just simply didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I don't know if he's going to have a role in it, but when you can get a viable businessman in the local market, you take it. And that's exactly what they did, and more power to them. I wish them well. All right, Candy, why don't you end the show for us, please?
Okay, so let's show. Sorry, JT, you're going to be covered up for a minute, but there is Scott's book. He wrote Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Kindle and Amazon. If you like our show, down by Scott, there's a little red subscribe button. Click it, like us, share us. Tell all your friends about us. If you like baseball, we talk baseball Monday nights, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, which is what you're listening to right now. Tuesday nights is Inside the Pigskin. We talk about football, college, and NFL. You never know. We might even throw in a high school game or two. You never know. And the NFL draft. We'll be talking heavily about that. Wednesday nights right now has Sports Exchange, which is our premier show. It is also going to be seen on NGBN TV, which is a TV streaming service. And it is all about focusing on saving the lives of men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who we're trying to stop the suicide rate, especially in those areas, because that is the highest suicide age group and males. So we joined this network called NGBN TV. It is available right now on Android, Roku, and Amazon Fire. It is going to be available on Apple soon, but that's what it's streaming service that has all kinds of good shows on it as well. We also do Motor City Mad Mouse Show, which is a one-on-one interview show for Scott. He talks to you never know who. We also have No Limits. We also have Fire Up, which is a show I'm part of on Thursday nights and sometimes on Sunday mornings. We also talk about, we have Pundit's Pundit. We have, let's see what else. I Fire Up Michigan, Fire Up Florida, Fire Up Wisconsin. You never know what show we might have or who we might have on it. We also have a website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Go to it. You can see some of my pictures. You can see some of Scott's writing his articles. George writes under the Motor City Tribune on there. We have transcripts from the Detroit Lions, from the Miami Dolphins, and Jacksonville Jaguars. We have information about USF athletics, FSU athletics, FAU. In fact, we just went a week ago on Sunday and saw their men's basketball team is in the top 20. We were there. We're going to have articles on there. Come see us. And if you like to listen to podcasts, the audio version of this show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. We stream live to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If I missed anything, again, Scott's book available on Amazon and Kindle. Okay, JT, your turn to let everybody know how we can get a hold of you.
You can get a hold of me. You can email me at jt@draft412.com. The website is www.draft412.com, which will be becoming draftnation.com here in the next week or two. We're transferring all the information over, and we are an Uber draft company. We don't talk about the Pirates winning 4-2. We talk about the prospects involved and the draft coming up in each sport, all 4 sports. So you can get on there, check out the prospects, and let us know what you think. And thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate these Monday nights.
And George, your turn. How can we get a hold of you?
All right. You can follow me, as Candy mentioned, on the South Florida Tribune, under the Motor City Tribune. I write sports, and for a local paper in Detroit as well, the Monitor. You can also get a copy of my book, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. If you'd like to order one, there's a handy link at the end of my columns on the Motor City Tribune. You'll find directions to Amazon. You can follow me also at Twitter at SanGSports99, on LinkedIn under my name, George Eichhorn, and gichorn@yahoo.com as well. Find me on 108 Stitches, the Sports Exchange, Pundit, any number of wonderful programs, Fire Up, that I'm part of and lucky to be a part of, and lucky to have great broadcast partners like Scott and Candy and you too, JT, all the great people that we work with on the platform. It's been a fun time. Thank you.
Scott, what about you? Did I leave anything off?
No, you did a good job. Like I said, the book, Lessons from the Microphone, Old School Media versus New School Media, did a good job, Candy. Can be purchased on Kindle and Amazon. Enjoy doing our Monday Night Baseball. So on behalf of Candy Ebling, JT Toth, and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We will see you next Monday night.